We're on the cusp of a new golden age in space. I'm Alex Guns, the fund manager of the Heptagon Future Trends Equity Fund, and I'm here today to talk to you about our latest piece of thematic work on the commercialization of space. Whether we like it or not, space is all around us today, and it's also absolutely indispensable. You may not realize it, but every time you use your GPS services, you try and make a long distance call, or you're trying to look at the weather forecast, the outcome is a function of what happens in space. And we think that space is only going to become more important because in addition to those commercial uses, space is increasingly becoming the next arena for warfare. Just as battles in the past have been fought on land, air and sea, in the future they're going to be fought probably in space too. Now the good news, before you'll get too worried, is that almost everything that's being put up into space, in our opinion and on our analysis, is inherently dual use. In other words, it can serve both a commercial purpose and a military purpose. And when you think about it, the biggest challenge for what we can do with space is really how we can connect the unconnected today. Space is less about tourism or even about battles, and maybe more than anything about data. If you can manipulate and maximize the use of data in space, then there's a very good ability to connect the unconnected in the world today. And it's worth remembering that over 2 billion people today still lack access to the internet. Now the reason why we're so excited about space is simply that it is becoming increasingly easy actually to get anything into space. When you look at the costs of launch, they've come down drastically, 20-fold in the last decade, and this is really helping drive the growth of the industry. It's not just scale and experience, but it's also technological evolution, in particular the use of reusable rockets. So last year, no surprise then, we saw a record number of objects launched into space, something in the order of 3,000, which is a 15-fold increase on the comparable figure from a decade ago. When you turn that into numbers, it means that last year the space industry was worth about $600 billion, and we think when you project out, you look at all of the different use cases, that figure could top over $1 trillion by 2050. Now, as with every other future trend we write about and discuss, the path towards that figure is unlikely to be a linear one. Clearly accidents, many of them high profile, still happen in space, and also as space becomes increasingly a geopolitical issue, the chance of miscalculations only rises in our opinion. Despite these concerns, however, the amount of interest in the sector is only growing. Last year saw a record amount of venture capital put into the space sector, and 2025 will probably see that figure surpassed. When we think about it from a public investing perspective, however, the field is a little bit narrower today. Most investors, most listeners will be familiar with SpaceX, arguably the highest profile business within the space arena, but that remains private today, even if it's valued at over $300 billion. Within the public arena, the businesses listed tend to be a little bit smaller, companies such as Rocket Lab or AST Space Mobile. A more interesting perspective, in our opinion, is to try and decompose the value chain. It's not just the rockets that launch objects into space or the objects themselves, but ultimately it's the services which may add value. If space is about connecting the unconnected, then the providers of data services, businesses such as Amazon and Meta, may ultimately be the clearest beneficiaries. I think whichever way we cut the pie, the growth of space is only headed one way. The race for space is on, and it's going to be increasingly important that everyone participates. So thank you for listening. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or to your representative at Heptagon Capital. Thanks again.